What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to the Failed Podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you've been enjoying the previous episodes that we had. I knocked out one in Spanish. It was a bit challenging for me. And the episode might be a complete failure, but guess what? I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep going. I had fun doing it. I got a good response from the community. And so we'll see who the next Spanish episode's going to be with. But today we have a fun episode on hand. The reason I say that is because the individual that I'm with today, he's just a lot of fun. He brings the best out in me. He's a good guy. He's a musician. He's going to school studying, I believe, like studio work or worship. And he's multifaceted, got a lot of talents. He can sing, he can dance, he can do a cartwheel. Well, wait a minute. Can you do a cartwheel, Josh?
No,
my bad. False advertisement. With us today, Josh Mojica. How you doing, Josh?
I am good, Sam. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. First of all, let me say thank you for coming on the Failed Podcast. Me and you have spent a lot of time together. You've seen, we've worked together. We've done ministry together, and we've laughed together, and you've seen me frustrated. You've seen me fail at certain things, when it comes to work, and you've also seen how I've handled stress, and you know me a lot more than most people because we spent a lot of time together. But because of that, I feel like we can do a pretty cool episode today, and so that's gonna be what we do. Let me see. Hold on. If you're watching, obviously I'm recording. I'm gonna make a change right on the air. We're gonna put these on. I was gonna try to do it without these foam things, but it's just got too much. There we go. And there we go. A little better.
Yeah, much better. Yeah,
I'm trying to figure it out. So
it's all good.
So Josh, here at the Failed Podcast, the goal is to figure out what challenges and failures we've had in life, okay? And I know that you've had a crazy journey in life, and you've experienced a lot of things. And so when you hear the word failure, what comes to mind? Is it a memory? Is it an experience? Is it just simply the definition of the word?
I think failure can really be listening to my own voice say over and over again, I'm not good enough. I'm not worth something. I'm not able to produce something good out of, something terrible.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think with that definition at hand, I think I have hit those marks time and time again.
Yeah.
And it has to be with the fact that music-wise, you can make a lot of decisions that are good, and a lot of decisions are bad, and will obviously, will kind of set up your future in a way, because a lot of it has to do with reputation. A lot of it has to do with consistency, and a lot of it has to do with just, a lot of factors that can ultimately, you have this reputation, you have this, somewhat this pride that's there, and yet you're able to find the better things that can better tune those failures and try to learn from those mistakes and obviously make them into something that you can talk about, maybe even sing about, write about.
Yeah. So when it comes to music, because I feel like that's what you specialize in, you got a lot of talents, you do a lot of things, but you write music, you know how to play instruments. What would you say that your most creative, your most energy goes into? What do you enjoy the most in the music process, considering all your skills?
I think the most time consuming, I would say. Not that I say that's a bad thing. I think the most, I'd have to say the most time-consuming thing is definitely just fine-tuning certain vocals, harmonies, melodies. It doesn't just have to be words. It can be a melody of sorts that would it be appropriate for this audience, that audience, here and there. So I feel like I focus more on that, even more than just the music itself.
Now, when you're making music, you're doing these melodies. In every industry, in every craft that is out there in the world, there's levels of failure that happen. Some of them are by mistake and they kind of just throw you off the rails. But then there's others that are necessary to take you to the next level or to learn something that's going to help you in the future. What are some failures or some challenges or limits that a musician, as a singer, songwriter, that they experience, right? And what have you learned from it?
I think a failure I can list can be certain collaborations that can ultimately lead to more collaborations or not. A lot of those collaborations can either damage that friendship or further it even more to obviously, more time, more studio work. But I think if there are opposing ends, like one wants to have just a simple melody, and then another head wants to have like something complex, something different, something that's something that's not the norm of like maybe pop music, for example.
And so right now you're kind of identifying like collabing and working with people, right? Okay, so I just want people to see the premise. So in music, you have to work with others, and there's a dynamic that brings. And so you were leading into,
because ultimately you're even though I could be a singular writer or something like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm working with my audio engineer together to like see what this song could maybe sound like, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think if there are more heads inside the collaboration, there are more minds thinking towards the same goal. Obviously, yeah, you can have the opposing ends, but obviously meeting towards the same goal of having a melody, having a song intricacy or something like that, and having something substantial. That way you have the timeline, you can release it, and you can have all these different circular things going.
In all of your projects that you've done, can you share with us some of the challenges and failures you've experienced? Whether it be like, dude, we spent 20 hours writing this, and then the roof leaked and ruined all the equipment. Like, can you think of some that have made you better, but at the moment, boy, they challenged you?
I think there was one artist that I worked with during school.
Producing him? Or like alongside him?
Working alongside him.
So you're playing or singing with him?
Yeah, playing and singing. Wasn't too much in the engineering work.
Got it.
But I remember we came into the studio with one idea, and then the next day it completely changed.
Oh, man.
And the thing is, it was over certain musicalities and a certain like music theory that obviously was kind of intersecting with what we had originally planned. So we had to adjust to that, obviously.
What frustration does that bring up? Because I can imagine in the first meeting and as you're developing and planning, you spend a lot of time, and then you come to an agreement and you're like, cool, man, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll knock it out. So your stress level is already reduced, and you're already getting your mindset on what's going to happen tomorrow. But then, boom, there's a shift. So what does that do as far as like frustration? How do you communicate that with the other person so that it doesn't create conflict for what's about to happen in a few minutes?
I think it can obviously lead to different opinions going around and around, and yet we're not going to go anywhere with that because obviously time is money, and especially in the studio.
Yeah.
In the studio recording, time is essentially very much money. So depending on the time that we're going to be working on this song, because I know I can think of one example that can kind of put this on the map a little bit. So a popular pop artist named Dua Lipa is being sued under a very popular song that came out about 2 years ago called Levitating. And another band came in and said, hey, that's exactly a ripoff of our melody that we wrote from a song that was sampled back in however many years ago or something like that. Yeah. So you get into those kinds of conversations to where, okay, if I'm playing this song and we have this idea and it's not following the certain music theory terms that we want to have it under, is it sounding like a song that was sampled a couple of years back? Is someone going to sue? Because you never know where the song will go.
Yeah.
And there's all these like intersecting things that can factor with music, especially popular music nowadays.
Yeah.
That can really come after certain artists, not just to, antagonize them, but like, to say like, okay, you stole this idea. Let's just try to get money out of it. You know?
That's what fixes everything, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
So okay, so you're playing, you write, you do some producing, but you also play on stage. You play live, and you were mentioning to me that you used to play with on stage. What'd you call it? Feedback, and then you switched to in-ears.
Yes.
And so you've had a lot of transitions in your musical development. Can you, it could be a funny one, right? Like, I forgot to plug in the guitar, I forgot the music, or something. What's a mistake that you've had on stage with a bunch of people watching and depending on you that you really don't have a lot of time to adjust? Because sometimes we have failures and then we can learn from them and then we can gradually start executing again. But sometimes, like when you're live, when you make a mistake, you have to, with your gut, fix it, adjust, and continue. So there's a fast learning curve, and then you have to execute. And that's hard, but a musician experiences that, I believe, often along with the group and whatever. So is there anything or that in the industry that you could share with us?
I think I can name one deal. I was playing for a church back in the day, and I remember just one time, like, just not getting enough sleep beforehand. I think that was definitely a factor of it, I'd say. And I remember we rehearsed this song. I had memorized the song. I had learned all the lines and all the hits and the runs to it, because it was a new song. We were introducing it, and I just remember like immediately forgetting the first line, two lines completely. We were fine during the rehearsal. We were fine during the run through.
Yeah.
And just so happens that I forget the two lines that were supposed to come into the song. And I'm just like trying to play it off, but obviously I couldn't really do it.
What do you do? Like, how do you, because first of all, I would assume it's embarrassing, like you kind of, right? Everyone's counting on me, Josh is the man, and then you kind of drop the ball. How do you deal with your confidence? And then, like, you got to clock in. Like, a few, melodies in, you got to clock in. What helps you get past that and continue?
I think you cannot be too much in your head, and you cannot be relying on the fact that, oh, hey, I just missed two lines.
There's no time for that.
There's no time for that. You have to immediately just shake it off and talk about it afterwards.
I love it, dude, because in all the episodes we've had, you're the first musician I'm talking to, and a lot of people have failures that you have to just own up to them real quick and then take
really fast,
and then take the next step.
Yeah.
So that's when your practice, that's when your memory, that's when everything you've done leading up to that finally jumps back in, right? What are some things that you've learned, and maybe some things that you do so that doesn't happen often?
So
right?
So obviously, like every musician, I would hope every single musician would follow these traits, and maybe there's a number system, maybe there's a better way to explain it, but one is obviously practice at home. Practice off stage, that the time that you are savoring those moments of prepping for whatever you're going to be playing, for a church, for a gig, whatever, practice at home. That way the practice is not with the band.
Got it.
And
that's one.
Yeah, that's one. I'd say one. Two is that you find a balance of time, obviously, to set aside that time in order to, obviously, if you want to be a working musician in the industry, obviously, you have to set aside that time. You have to.
People don't realize that how much time it takes to prep and play with a band. Like, especially if you play different genres, different bands, and you might switch from one instrument to the other. From the outside, it's easy. Oh, he can just get up there and play. But it takes time. Like, people don't realize that.
Reality is that there are, even though there are top, for example, 50 country songs that you know, and yet there are, even though they all sound the same, for example, there could be 10 other songs that you have not looked at in a good amount of time, and you need to obviously refresh. You need to renew those certain details with those 10 songs, because you need to have them memorized. You need to have them ready to go and ready to play and ready to just work on.
Yeah. Starting off, like, I guess whenever you were more of an amateur, maybe not as confident, what have you learned from all the challenges and just having to step up and be more professional? What have you learned that kind of helps you in life, but on the stage?
I think the first thing growing up, I think it was mainly mic position, where the mic was. Because obviously, I
like
sang,
right now, your mic position is amazing.
Yeah, like
everyone that comes on here is like, okay, don't move, stay this far away from the mic.
I know it has to be pointed at the chin. I know yes, I can be looking down at it or something like that, but obviously that takes away from the resonance. That's going to be.
Let me adjust mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
and if I don't have my mic position in the right way, like, sometimes I see so many different pop musicians. Yes, they show out and everything, but obviously those mics are designed for those types of performances.
Got it.
Obviously, if for example, Lady Gaga's having her mic up here and singing all.
If you're listening, you're not gonna be able to see what he's doing, but we're gonna have this on our YouTube channel, so if you can do the thing, then they'll know.
Yeah. So if you're singing from a mic up here, you're not gonna be able to, obviously she has the power of, like, her voice and everything is just phenomenal, but you're not gonna be able to, properly do that with a trained mic with a obviously a learning musician that's going to be conveying certain words. If I'm going to be worshiping, or if I'm going to be singing a certain song, I want someone to feel the words that I'm expressing, obviously. And I was critiqued on it so often for some reason.
That you weren't doing good?
That I didn't have my mic position correctly.
Yeah.
And that was before I started playing guitar and singing at the same time.
Got it. So you made the adjustment, and now it's in the back of your head because someone told you, someone critiqued you, then you had to take it to mind, make the adjustments, and then make it a habit, right? And so in life, we have a lot of failures, but a lot of them are due to the fact that we don't know how to take criticism. So when someone tells us, hey, dude, don't do this or don't head down that path, we kind of ignore it. We never take it to mind and make the adjustments so that we have the mic in the proper position in the future. We just ignore it and we just see it as a negative, right? So as a musician, I feel like you have to collab with people so often, and you all criticize yourself. Do this, help me with that. And that's to improve, right? So how do you, so critiquing or telling someone what they're doing wrong comes across as a negative for most people, but from your position, it's a good thing, and you should hear it out and then figure out if you can apply it and learn from it, right? So how do you give criticism, right? Why am I saying that? Because as we're helping people come out of their failure, we have to know how to communicate that we're not only helping them, but we also have to give it to them in a way that they can receive it. So how do you give criticism whenever you're working with other musicians? I
think I can think back to a first criticism that I ever, and it came off as very critical, but yet, like, obviously I didn't want to sound that critical. maybe it was somehow some way how I worded it or something like that, or maybe the other person was just not in a great mood at that time. But I remember telling I can't quite remember.
Did you just crush their little heart?
I think I did. I'm pretty. Yeah, it was pretty heavy-handed, and I didn't mean to sound that critical.
Don't lose your train of thought, because I've heard of people singing, like on a team, but they can't sing.
Mm-hmm.
But then the director or the lead comes up to them and says, you really can't sing, and they walk away from the stage and they never come back. Like, it's so hard to give someone criticism because you just might be the last straw for them not to believe it in themselves.
Because they've heard so many different criticisms from different people. If they're hearing it from, okay, here we go again, just another criticism to be directed at me, telling me that I can't sing just because of this factor or this thing or number 3 option, and it can so often be so disheartening that you can, work those decisions out, but yet you're not open to that criticism to begin with.
That's true. What else what's your favorite part of music? Because there's the prep, there's the community, there's the live, but then there's also like learning and exploring new things through music, right? That's like the ultimate, to be able to create something new.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Whether you want to, continue that avenue of just learning new types of ticks to, okay, so this person specializes in this department or this area.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're able to fill in that gap. That way, come next project, we're able to produce this and this and this and that.
Because so in live, so many of the technologies that we use,
so advancing at this point.
Yeah, they come from failures. Like, because this broke, I'm able to use it for this. So what have you seen that in your music, in your creative process? Have you made a mistake that then all of a sudden you have something new that just makes you better?
I've made a song that I've recorded and put out there, and will absolutely not share it here because I am ashamed. I am.
Let me plug it in. Let me see.
No. Hang on. No.
Is it queued up?
No, not at all. But
it was so bad.
It was that bad that I really have no desire to, like. I kept hearing it over and over again. I was just like, man, it sounds so good in my mind, but then come the result of it, I just hated it.
That's usually
so
what's right before an epic failure. It sounded so good.
Yeah.
The idea sounded so good in my head. So how do you deal with the fact that song exists, that you made it, you're creative, you put time into it, you're like, man, this is good. Oh yeah, push record, master it, or whatever. But yet you're saying, I'm not going to put it out for the world because there's something, it came up short somehow. But when you say, but when you say that song came up short, that song is representative of you. Tell me what that does.
Man, I think by far that has to be a learning experience. That has to be a learning experience for me to, obviously not go to that certain avenue again to where I make that type of song.
Can we play it? Do you have it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, I think back to John Foreman of Switchfoot, and he writes like at least a song a day, every day. I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
And he does that. And I'm sure a lot of those songs are recorded, mastered, but they're not released.
And they're put away.
Yeah, they're put away.
Your mom just sent in the song. So everyone stay tuned.
No, that's not true at all.
Okay, so you have that. And we all have failures, in essence, floating around in our memory bank. And we don't want to use them. We don't find a positive out of them. We don't pull lessons from them. And it seems like a waste. Even though that song, even though you're not happy about it, there's things that you pull from it that make you better as a musician. And you have it there and you use it to improve. And that's kind of like the message that I want to put out there with the Failed Podcast. The failures we have are like that bad song. But in that bad song, there was still techniques, there was still things that we did that could open the door for something way better in the future, right? So tell me about some of the things that you're proud of as a musician that cost you a lot.
I think
Like time and effort, you know.
Yeah, time and effort. I think for sure a couple of projects that I'm proud of is not too many, but I'm not sure if they would be willing to let me share on it. But like, I'm still actually currently working with them. Currently.
Yeah, you don't have to share, but there is some.
There is some that I'm very proud of. That obviously I've learned from what their approach of music is, and then they hear about my approach, and usually they end up going with mine because of it being so unique and different.
Yeah. And by approach, could you give me like an example, like a summary of what you mean by from a musician's point of view?
From a musician's standpoint, I think the fact that I can immediately come up with a certain type of melody that can ultimately be have harmony 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4. That they can fully rely on those like certain points of hitting this point in the verse or this point in the chorus, even a hook or something like that. That it doesn't all have to sound the same. It doesn't all have to sound unique, but yet we can still record this, the different ideas and the different types that can come across it. But I think my ability to interpret those harmonies and as well as melodies as well can really benefit the more musicians that rely more on their instruments for melody in a way.
So, okay, let's just say there's someone listening in the early stages of learning a guitar or learning how to vocalize or whatever, and they're getting a lot of bad criticism, okay, because from someone else's perspective, they're just not good. So they feel a bit like a failure, but they know that they like it, and they have these musicians that they want to sound like and be like, so that's what keeps them going. What words of encouragement do you wish someone would have gave you so that you can pass it on to someone who's kind of just to put it in layman's terms, just kind of failing at progression and learning the guitar or the piano? What would you tell them?
So with that, I think I can share a story about this real quick. I think back when I was first learning the guitar, there would be 2 friends of mine that I would teach guitar to, just simply, and just a simplicity of chords, the simplicity of like the placements on the guitar, what guitar parts are like working with one another. That way, the strings can all work together in unison or in harmony. I would teach them those lessons. Then like 2 years later, where I was focusing so much on vocalization and music and certain music types and stuff vocally, the 2 that I was teaching guitar to made more advancements on guitar.
Yeah.
And they went with it. And they were playing so skillfully by the time that we were all older. And yet, like, I'd say I laid the groundwork for them.
Got it.
I laid that foundation for them to build upon what's to come.
Yeah.
Even though, like, I was learning in a different area, and advancing that, but they were able to take the foundation I had laid for them and make it into something that was their own and that was unique to them.
Dude, Can you play a little air guitar for me?
Yeah.
Let me see. Dude, that's so good. It doesn't make sense on audio, but it'll make sense on. That was so good. You're so talented. So anyway,
Just a
okay.
quick song.
So okay, so the foundation. Like sometimes we want to do things in life, projects, jobs, whatever, to just improve and advance in life, and we ignore the foundation. We ignore the building blocks necessary to go to the next level. And then when we fail because we forgot, we never established the foundation, where we don't even know where to restart from because we never had a beginning. And that's kind of, I like that that's what you gave your students, and then they built on that, and then you saw them just take off, you know?
And yeah, no, I think that was especially the time that I was teaching worship leadership to a group of middle school and high school students.
Yeah.
They went with the ideas that I had expressed, that how do we come to this place of worship, how do we come to this place of just surrender in that time, and giving, obviously, in worship, our worship should be continually throughout our day.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
It should be something that we live and breathe at the moment, because of the fact that when we come to that moment, or when we come to that confession of, God, you're so good, God, you're everything that I need, what are some of the factors from our day that we can take from that experience? Obviously, throw it to God, but at the same time, how do we express those feelings to a congregation, or how do we express those feelings? And the middle schoolers kind of had a grip with it of what they were understanding, and the high schoolers actually were like, huh, that makes so much sense, because my mom literally yelled at me this morning, and now I'm here, and do I take that anger and express it in my worship? No, obviously.
You know, I love it that because whenever we fail, it takes our confidence away from something else that's in a different area of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I failed here, so I'm down, I'm bummed out, I'm all these negative things, and we carry that to other things, and we shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, look at the situation, analyze it, and then grow from it. But man, whenever you fail, or you have a bad experience in the morning and your parents yell at you, in most cases, it affects most of your day. But if you are aware, it shouldn't. Mm-hmm. Like, why were you going to let one incident ruin everything?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, okay? So you're obviously, you've taught music, and you're also a student. Okay. When do you put on the student hat and the teacher hat whenever you're facing challenges? Like right now, are you a student or a teacher?
I feel like I'm a student, because I always want to learn about certain failures from different angles, you know?
Yeah.
And especially if because in my school there's an accountability time that we have and stuff, and sharing our what's going on in our life, and what's going on in spiritually, what's going on emotionally as well.
What are you studying in school?
In worship leading at
Okay.
the moment. So I'm speaking with other worship leaders.
Got it.
From Memphis, from Chicago.
Yeah.
And they share their experiences, and they share what they've been doing. But yet, like, there's so many different failures that they express.
Yeah.
But yet, like, they're still trying to find that avenue of how to get out of that failure.
Got it. So they're in it still.
Some of them are.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that's just ministry in general.
But what does that teach you, though, to watch someone kind of try to express it?
I think how they deal with it.
Yeah.
How they approach those that moment of surrendering that burden, or that little tick that can obviously, affect their whole day.
Yeah, yeah.
Or their whole week, or for a season. Because a lot of times truly ministry can do that. You can get burnt out. You can experience these different avenues of just chaos all around you, truly. And I think I enjoy hearing about those types of situations because obviously I've been in those situations and I've worked through those. And I'm just like, okay, well then let me flip the student brain. And how do I teach? How do I convey those things to obviously come out of that and to come out of that failure?
So failure is a major part of a musician's life. From just listening to you, you have to learn, you have to make mistakes, you have to improve. How do you feel like the young Josh compares to the Josh now? Like, what are some major improvements that you have gained from all of your experience in playing live, working with people, teaching people? What are some like major qualities that you've gained?
I think a certain major quality that I've gained being a musician is that you cannot just... I have to say there's truly no I in team. I would often so often, especially in high school, because I would think everything is under my control when really in reality it's not. And I learned that lesson very, very early on, to where I was just so involved with where my priority is. Then at that point, then it's not really, God's priority to begin with. It's my own that I'm so focused on. And I think if I am encouraging those others that are working alongside me, or were involved in a team or worship or a band or something like that, those factors can really benefit the team in the long run, truly.
It's in making music, it's crazy because it can be so solitary with technology now. You can record your own instruments, your own vocals, what do you call the second, third voice, the harmonies. You can do it all. It can just be all you, and technology allows us that. But working with others and creating music with others is just a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you could choose out of both, what would you prefer to work with other people as opposed to just being a one-man band?
Yeah. I would prefer having that second mind, that third mind, that fourth mind, obviously accomplishing the same goal.
Yeah.
That we could curate together.
Yeah.
Truly.
And I think, okay, so failure is going to happen no matter what you do in life and everything, okay?
Yeah.
But I feel like it's not that it's nicer, but when you're with a team and everyone's going in the right direction, if y'all hit a roadblock, you're not just going to have one perspective and solution for that. You have several, and it kind of lightens the load. Does that apply to music? Like you're describing now, but can you feel it like while you're there creating?
Yeah.
Or does it create a headache and just like, hold on, guys, it's too many heads in here?
There can be headaches. There will be headaches.
Yeah.
You can collaborate with certain people, and they could take the song in an entirely different direction.
Yeah.
And that one mind can obviously influence another mind to go that same direction when originally you had planned this.
Got it. But that happens just organically while you're there.
I think that does happen organically, but yet like you can still learn from those experiences to know like, okay, if we're working with these with this type of drummer or this type of singer or this type of guitar player, that you can truly work around those differences. You can. It's, maybe you have to herd them like sheep every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I think back to like my favorite band of all time being Coldplay and stuff, and watching their documentary of how they had a lot of differences.
Yeah.
Even though the music was so unique that it's you heard a piano or you heard a guitar and you just knew, hey, that's a Coldplay song. But yet there were so many different instances that they wanted to take a song in this direction, and when really, like, corporately
Yeah.
or studio wise, like, you know, maybe that's not a word, but you can have the song sounding so songs that sound so iconic, like Viva La Vida or Yellow or something like that, and yet, like, so many different mistakes can make a song at times. Maybe those mistakes and those differences can actually make something that's creative and something that's new and unique.
You said that Coldplay is one of your favorite bands.
One of my very first bands I ever started listening to, yeah.
So tell me, and we'll finish the show up with this thought, okay? Tell me about one of your favorite songs and why. Why is it your favorite? Why can you hear it over and over? What stands out about it? What makes you better from listening to it?
Well, it's not a Coldplay song, that's for sure. But I think back to a kind of country duo by the name of the Civil Wars, and Joy Williams, John Paul White. They wrote a song called "Falling," which is actually one of their first songs that they ever wrote back in 2009, maybe. And the song has a very dark meaning to it, and it's obviously, you know, talking about a love song.
If I YouTubed it, I could hear it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find a link for those listening, and I'm gonna put it in the description below.
Yeah.
What's it called and who's it by?
Falling by the Civil Wars.
Okay, continue.
By far my favorite song that I can, even if I mention it, I can still hear the guitar playing its intro, and to where Joy, she kind of leads through the song and talking about a failed romance that can, you know, can kind of curate into this beautiful mess, to where you realize you don't need the other person. And I just think about that song so often, not because I've had those experiences, obviously, but I recognize that tune so well because of its sound, its distinct sound, that I can truly obviously replay it in my mind without even listening to the song.
Wow.
And usually those songs can, I can hear a song and it can play over and over and over again, but like I listen to that song so distinctly, and that it feels like the first time I heard it, that I felt so captivated to like write a song, something similar to that writing style, or something I could maybe bring up later on in life. So
give me your final thoughts on how you think of failure for your future and for the future projects you got going on. Are you scared of failure, or have you learned enough to say, when it comes, I can handle it?
I think failure can come at many different angles, but yet I can approach those difficulties, whether I want to run away from it, which how I used to do things, or I can approach it head on.
Well, Josh, I just want to thank you for coming on. I enjoyed our talk. I know that that you're on Twitch, and if there's any listeners who just want to, tell you thank you for sharing, or maybe they would have some questions about who you are and what you're doing. And I know you got a lot of future projects in the making, and that you got a lot of stuff that you're going to be doing. And so, it's cool. And someone might just want to keep up with you. If they wanted to know you, where could they follow you? I know you told me you have a schedule on Twitch. Give us that info.
So I stream Monday morning, Thursday evening, and Friday nights on twitch.tv/ it's just Moji. So it's just Moji. It's just Moji in general is the same for pretty much every social media that I have.
I'll link your social media below. Josh is a cool person, super creative, and we always laugh together. So that's why I know he's a good person, because we laugh together. Thank you for coming on the Failed Podcast. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see y'all on the next one.